Welcome to our new production of LiveNet Concept 2010. Good evening to all our visitors of tonight's interview with Mr. Stephan Mögle-Stadel. My name is Dr. Lutz Euder. I'm a scientist with an international background in development aid, mainly in Africa. It is my pleasure to interview Mr. Stephan Mögle-Stadel on his engagement in the World Citizen movement. He is dedicated futurologist, psychohistorican, and world citizen. One of his books on the subject is titled Humanity at the Threshold, published in 2003.
Hello, thank you for the invitation, and Lutz, just call me Stephan.
That's okay. Stephan, you've been prospecting our today's global crisis in several lectures and publications at least 13 years ago. The German newspaper Süddeutsche Zeitung reflected it in its weekend edition of August the 17th and 18th of 1996. On one of your lectures in Munich, writing "Capitalism will collapse due to its egoistic determination, whilst fatally neglecting social and environmental aspects, such being a unique chance for a complete restructuring. The longer we wait to take affirmative action in anticipation, the harder the changes to deal with. This article expects the events to happen within 10 to 15 years, which will be between 2006 and 2011. Here's my first question. Was it a clearance, or how did you get to this perspective?
Well, clearance was in this case not necessary, but well, it is ever helpful to have a feeling for the flow of the rivers of history. But in fact, I have studied psychohistory, and it means to take a look on what happens in history with a psychoanalytic and a psychotherapeutic view. And I have published together with Professor Ossip Flechtheim. In the 18th, he holds a chair for Futurology and for social science at the Free University in Berlin, and I have published a study with him at Peter Lang Publishers in Frankfurt called Is Future Still Savable? 1 year later, I published my own book, a challenging response to the Club of Rome, called The Indivisibility of Earth. And in these both books, we looked on a past, we looked on what happens now, and we looked on the patterns, on the archetypes, and on the movements on a different level, what's going on, and developed some scenarios, what it means in the nearby future of 10, 15 years, and let's say in 20 or 30 years. This is an old tradition. For example, famous scientists like Professor Isaac Asimov or Professor Robert Lifton, who are very close to the World Citizen movement, has developed this science called psychohistory and futurology, and we use it as a tool to get a feeling, to get a sign of what could happen. It must not absolutely, but what could happen in the nearby future, to be on a wave of the things, and maybe to change a little bit the direction that it goes, instead that the response of global challenges will be dictatorial or will be only economical, that the responses will be responses toward a global society, global civil society and world citizenship. For this we do these observations, and if you know these patterns and if you observe the flow of developments, you can, so it appears a knowledge of what could happen in a nearby future, and you can prepare yourself, and maybe you can take a little bit influence at some neuralgic points.
You are a board member of the International World Citizen Foundation based in New York. Could you tell us how did you come to join the foundation, and what are the overall objectives of the World Citizen movement?
Well, this is a damned long biographical story, but to put it short, I was around 16, 17 years old, and as a student, together with my class, I was in a concentration camp called Dachau, close to Munich. And there I viewed some boys from an international school, so black ones, Asiatic ones, European ones, so really mixed, playing with a Coca-Cola can football at these grounds, yes. And there I go to interrupt them, take away the Coca-Cola can, and at this moment I realized what is necessary not to be a German citizen or an international citizen, but to be a citizen of the world and take some part of global responsibility. And to catch this idea in this concentration camp, Dachau, opened my mind for the next step, because this was an age at the end of the 80s in Germany where you have the chance to refuse military service, but it was very complicated. You have 3 judges, and you must give a written testimoniation as a conscientious objector why you refuse military service in Germany. And I choose, for the reason to do this, ecological reasons, that our military industrial system destroy the planet and humanity, and I choose, in consequence of this, cosmopolitical reasons, so that I said, I'm a citizen of the world, and as a citizen of this world, I cannot serve in any national army or serve any national state. And of course, as I did this, and I must go as a journalist at first to the United Nations to write it down again on UN paper and send it back to the office in Cologne in Germany, who are in charge of such refusals. So it gets some spread in the media. And the last old board member from the World Citizen Movement in Germany read one of his newspaper articles and invite me to an international conference of World Citizen Movement, where I met Sir Peter Ustinov, Yehudi Menuhin, and so on. So at first, as a young person, I wasn't aware that there is such a whole movement in the background. Okay, I know that there are some ideas in Old Greek, ancient Greek, of to being cosmopolite, yes, and world state, but I was not aware that there is still an organization running today, and through this refusal of my military service and through the media activities, I get contact with this organization.
I know very well what you're talking about. I refused military service as well in former GDR. So, this is not very... How did you, with that vision, this doesn't fit? It doesn't fit anymore.
Oh, well,
should have finished actually with
I should mention to do some work at the World Citizen Foundation. So I remind you have asked what we do, what programs
That's right.
we run. Let's see, in the especially in the 19th, there are 4 great challenges for the international community, for the world civil society. One was the so-called International Criminal Court. This was an idea that head of governments as well as high-rank military personnel should be personally responsible if they do some so-called crimes against humanity. And the idea was to establish a court like we have at the Nuremberg tribunal, but it was only a tribunal for a short time. But to establish a court in Den Haag in the Netherlands, where these high-rank guys can be put in front of this court and afterwards into jail. And of course, most of the big governments won't like this idea. Especially the permanent members of the Security Council, China, the United States, and so on. And we make a lot of pressure together with a coalition of 900 NGOs, non-governmental organizations, that at the end, at the Rome conference in summer 1998, that there are 60 states who dare to sign this Rome Treaty, and after this has happened, it can the International Criminal Court can come into function. This was one thing. Another thing which I was very highly involved was the idea how to save the oceans from pollution, from destruction of all kind, chemical waste, oil, and so on. And there was an idea to found a UN court on the law of sea. So that the international oceans get some kind of law protection, and before this they were just free area, everybody can do what he wants. And it was again, there were a lot of resistance from high governments like the US government and so on, and we brought together also a coalition, and we urged Germany, the German government, to sign this law of the sea, because the court of the sea shall be installed in Hamburg, Germany. But the problem was Germany has not signed the treaty, and it was completely illusionary to put a court, a law of sea in a state which didn't sign the treaty. But there was a trick. At the beginning of the 19th, the Federal Republic of Germany and the so-called Democratic Republic of Germany gets this kind of fusion, or better to say, West Germany takes over East Germany, and by this it must go quick. So it took over also a lot of international treaties East Germany has signed before, and one of these treaties was the law of the sea. And it was so quick that they don't realize it really, and we studied this law of reunification and see, hey, well, now also West Germany, or the new Germany, has also is a signatory state of this law of the sea. And now we made a lot of press action, and it was now clear, wow, we have this breakthrough, and now in the year 2001 we have had the establishing of this UN court on the law of sea. This was another campaign we have run.
Right, it's quite an achievement. How did you, with that vision and power of in the background, come to join the World Citizen movement?
Starting in young years with this idea at the concentration camp Dachau, and with the refusal of my national military service, I traveled around the world as a so-called globetrotter, or backpacker, to learn other cultures, not only by step in from hotel to hotel, but really go to the families, sleep on the street, look to the temples, and so on and so on. And I was there in the age at my 21st birthday. The 21st December, I was at the pyramids in Gizeh. And there at the Cheops pyramid in the night, I climbed high, and there at the top of the pyramid, I have had a really strong not only a strong idea, but a strong force and a vision of the unity of humanity. Yes, I saw also that the different religions, the different cultures fit in like a huge cake. Yes, and all together, piece it together, we are humanity. And this was more as an idea. It gave me some kind also of courage, of force, and you can say it was something like a vision quest. Yeah, right. I did at this time, where old cultures sent out their young people when they shall become grown-ups, sent out that they get somewhere in the wilderness, like the Indians did. They get some vision what they want to do with their life. Yes, and some force. Yes. And the same happens, they are climbing up the pyramids by night, and returning with this, I know that my main focus in my life will be developing of a global civilization, of a world parliament, of a real world citizenship. And for this I learned journalism, I learned teacher. So I looked what are sectors of work where I can transfer my ideas, my vision into daily life practice.
All right. Okay. Now, could you tell us something about the demonstration carried out within the General Assembly of the UN in 1948, and what turned this action into such a ignition, mobilizing more than 1 million of people to register and join the movement?
Well, most people today, if they hear about the International Declaration of Human Rights in the year 1948, think, well, it was some kind of a gift of the governments for the people, yes? But that's completely untrue, yes? The main writer of these 30 paragraphs of the human rights was a woman, Eleanor Roosevelt. And if she offered this at the beginning of the year 1948 to the government, to the General Assembly of the United Nations, and they read, let's say, paragraph or article 5, it's not allowed to torture people, the right to leave any country and return, freedom of press, of speech, and so on. They say, well, that's a little bit much, Eleanor. And they try to talk about and forget about this Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And at this time in Paris, where this meeting of the General Assembly took place, because New York was not finished, the building at this time, there was a young man, a young American called Gary Davis, and he viewed what happens there, what a nonsense, after Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Auschwitz and Dachau. They just continue with their group egoism, with their nationalism in an atomic age, yes? And he said, wait a minute. And at this time, 2.5 years after World War II, we have had in Europe so many people who lose all of their belongings, but also lose their passport and so on, sitting in camps and as paperless persons, yes. And now Gary came to Paris and said, wait a minute, I do the same, but I do it consciously. I declare myself as a stateless and paperless citizen of the world. And he did it in front of the place where the UN met, and with a lot of media around. And the first reaction of the media was, wow, what a crazy guy, what an utopist, yes? But at this time, great famous persons like Albert Camus, André Breton, Abbé Pierre, Albert Einstein, Albert Schweitzer, and so on, joined Gary Davis, this young man at, I guess it was at the age of 26, 27, yes, and say, well, what he did is ahead of the time. That's the right idea for this global situation. And you can see really in the headlines of the international media how it changed. Well, a young man who is ahead of his time, and so on. And together with Camus and other, Robert Sarasak and other world citizen, Gary Davis interrupt the General Assembly of the United Nations at the 19th November of 1948.
Okay.
They took place at the gallery as visitors, and then they stand up and they spoke World Citizen Declaration into the cameras there of the world press, and urged the General Assembly to draft this Universal Declaration of Human Rights and as world law, not as an appeal, please hold this human rights. No, they say it must be a world constitution must be drafted, not only the United Nations Charter, a world constitution, a world law where every national government or every multinational company who hurt these human rights automatically will be in a wrong position and get affected by this world law. And this leads to the fact that it's the 9th of December, there were 20,000 people coming together in Paris, close to the General Assembly, and say, well, we want to have world citizenship, we want to have the universal human rights. And one day later, at the 10th of December, through this pressure from the streets and from this few men, one man, Gary Davis, would dare to make out of himself utopist, and the other persons who assembled around, they make the pressure that they decided, well, we draft this Universal Declaration of Human Rights. So it was not a gift of the governments, it was really the result of a worldwide initiative, of a world citizen initiative.
But it took somebody to have a vision and the guts to carry it out, the courage and the guts to carry it out. That's
Exactly.
quite remarkable. So he triggered something completely new.
Yeah.
Okay. You've been active in the world citizen movement since the early 90s, I was told. Which projects have you been participating especially?
Okay. Something I mentioned was especially this United Nations Court on the Law of Sea, because at this time I worked in Hamburg as a journalist, and of course Hamburg was a city where the court shall be installed, and from there I made connections with the German Bundestag, the German Parliament. I was for a time, I worked there in the office of a legislator, and I developed some media action to push it through. The other thing is I developed I educated not only as journalist, I'm also educated as teacher.
All right.
And in how to educate students, and I developed a thing we call in Germany Weltbürgerkunde. It means student lessons for world citizenship, and this we bring in to schools who are interested in, It's not an official project of the national state of Germany. They are not so much probably interested in, but we offer as an offer to schools, private schools, but also humanistic high schools. We offer it, and they can for 1 day, 2 day, 1 week can make together with us and their students such a project where the students learn more about the backgrounds of human rights, of world citizenships, also that it goes back in many cultures. You have this idea of being a citizen of the world under different names, and we try to teach them how to found the German word is Bürgerinitiativen. I guess the best English word would be civil rights groups, to do lobbying for their interests and the interests of nature, and to make their voice hearable in a global community, not just to be a consumer of things who happen, but be a participant at this arising global civil societies. This is what we try to awake in the students.
All right, that's very interesting. The term world government, doesn't it trigger anxious feelings and maybe rejection with many people? What do you think about it? And what are the reasons? What do you think?
Well, that's true. If you look in the internet community, there are ever this fear of big world government, but this is most of the people don't make a difference. Yeah, of course, today we have a drive towards different groups. If it is be trilateral commission or if it will be some huge companies to install a world economic government, yeah. And our idea is, because it's also a stream in evolution, from very simple structures to coming to ever higher and more complicated structures. Let's put a example from nature. If you have a grass leaf, yeah, it's just green and very simple. And to reach the level of a rose, you need more complexity. It means you need color, different colors maybe. You need something who smells, and it gets at the end a rose or another kind of flower. And to understand this complexity means also beauty. Could mean beauty, and it is not only to reject. And we have a stream where people like Tyler de Chardin and other people mentioned, yes, we go towards unity, global community, humanity. And now how we reach it, yes? We can reach it through the global crisis as an ecological world government or a government of the multinational companies, or we can use this dream as citizens of the world to take part in it and create a world citizen movement. And this means not a world economic movement. This means not a world global government of the multinationals or of the trilateral commission and so on. It means that we should also use this dream, yeah, towards unity, humanity, community, to install a democratic government who is close to the citizens of the world and who stands under the law of human rights and not under the law of economics. This is one thing. And the other thing, if you look to Europe, for an example, we still have had a kind, in a European history, a kind of world government. For example, it was the Vatican, the Roman Catholic Church. It covers through a period in time really ruled Europe, and if you see through the Spanish exploration and so on, other parts of the world, and neo-colonialism and so on. So, of course, there is a fear, oh, hey, this could happen again. But the idea of world citizenship is not to be a part of any ego interest group, but to avoid such bad governance through a good governance who are open-minded, yes, who guarantees that everybody can live with his own beliefs, and not that one group is coming and say, we govern now the world, we govern now, and you must take our belief. But there are still, like in our cells or in our morphogenetic fields, there is this memory what happens in the Middle Age in Europe, and of course the people say, oh, well, I don't feel comfortable. On the other hand, we still have a world government of greed, of common patterns, yes, ever to have more and more, to consume and to earn a lot of money, that you can be a participant of this system. This is a kind of world government, yes, a psychological world government, yeah. And this leads us to self-destruction, and to overcome this world government of greed and, at the end, self-destruction, we need consciously a really world citizen good governance and government to handle these global problems. And so I see it's really a question of a psychological shift, that you get aware of what binds you from the future, what patterns are in you, what angels are in you. And there are a lot of old things in most of our souls. And to become a citizen of the world is also, you can see, a spiritual or psychological questions, how you can develop yourself. That in yourself you find not only the German guy or the European or the Christian, but you find also the Jewish, you find the Muslim, you find the Buddhist inside you. And with this intra-religious dialogue with yourself, you rise your consciousness to a global level. And with this level, you lose also the fears of handling the necessity of some kind of a governance and government of humanity, because the time is ripe. And if we don't do it as citizens of the world, other party will do this world government, and we will be at the end living under this kind of government.
In a way, it means it's better to act instead of reacting.
Yeah.
And to take responsibility from the government. Yes, that's a very interesting issue, and I hope that people will consider it and maybe join in your movement, so that all your efforts are getting to a point to accomplish something, because time is running, as we all know. And thanks for coming and joining us, and thanks for all your issues.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Bye-bye.